Hello everybody. Before we get into this video today, I just wanted to take a moment to remind you about the Esoteric Academy. This is a virtual online mystery school that my friend Paula and I have opened up. This mystery school includes all sorts of different spiritual courses, including courses over the Bhagavad Gita and the Alchemy of Movement. We also have different meditations as well as a vast library of exercise videos. All of these exercise videos have spiritual teachings infused in them, as your body is the conduit of your energy and your soul in this life. Right now, we are doing the soft launch, so you can get all of this for only $25 a month. That's the tuition during the soft launch phase, is only $25 a month, which is literally the price of a drop-in at a yoga shala. All of that information is down in the description box below. Just click the link. You get 7 days of a free trial when you sign up, and we look forward to having you. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Esoteric Atlanta. Of course, my name is Bryce. This video is not a planned video for the most part. I've got like notes here. As you can tell, I'm not at home right now. I had pre-filmed a bunch of stuff for this duration of when I wasn't going to actually be at my house for you guys, but I brought my equipment with me in the location that I'm in because I was going to try to do some filming for the Esoteric Academy. So it was kind of a serendipitous that I actually had my equipment with me so I could respond to this. And, you know, some of you watching this video might not really think that I have a reason to respond to this because I'm not part of this community where this situation came up, although I have been in the peripheral of this community, but it's not really about the situation per se. It's more about narcissistic personality disorder and how it affects us and how it affects people in a romantic relationship, in a friendship, in a work relationship on YouTube. And my heart just bled when this situation arose, that I felt like I really needed to say something because we're at a time in our timeline, you know, thank God. I think about hundreds of years ago when we didn't have the vernacular, we didn't have the words to describe certain personalities. And I just feel horrible for our ancestors, for the people who were victims of this particular personality disorder, because they probably spent most of their lives thinking that they were crazy or thinking that they were the ones in the wrong, because that's how narcissists make you feel. And in 2025, Happy New Year, everybody. In 2025, we're at this place where we understand the human mind better. And so we're able to notice particular patterns in people that are very much not okay and very toxic. Before we get into it, though, I was working on a video about Beatrice Cenci, who was an Italian noblewoman who was definitely a victim of a narcissist to the extreme. Now, the case I'm going to be referring to today in our modern times that broke out over the internet is not as extreme as what Beatrice went through, but I was going to do a deep dive on her, but I thought, you know what, let's just throw her story in with this video because it's very serendipitous. I feel like that I was working on this deep dive when this particular video dropped. So I'm going to play the Beatrice Cenci video, little clip for you now, and then we'll get into modern times in the specific video that I'm talking about. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Esoteric Atlanta. Of course, my name is Bryce. This video was definitely not planned. And in fact, I'm on location. I'm not at my actual desk because I am actually about to shoot some exercise videos for our new platform, the Esoteric Academy, and I had pre-scheduled videos for while I was away. And something kind of came up online that really greatly affected me emotionally, and I just felt drawn to talk about it and to do a video about it, because it's about time that we start to understand what some ABUSE really looks like, especially when it comes to the internet. And the funny thing is, I've been working on a story over a deep dive over the lost soul of Beatrice Cenci, or Cenci, however you say it. I've heard it said both ways. She was an Italian noblewoman who was unalived, we'll say, by the state when she was like 21 years old, because she, and again, I have to be careful of the words that I use on YouTube, but she was being intimately ABUSE'd by her father and forced by her brothers. And her way of retaliation to free herself was to unalive her father, which actually ended in her being put on trial for his unaliving, when it was literally an act of self-defense for her, or she herself also was unalived by the state. And so I'm going to briefly start with this story. This is a story that, I've been working on. I've been deep diving for our new deep dives into 2025. But given things that have been going on the internet in these last few days and my thoughts on things going on the internet, I thought I would start this show just briefly talking about Beatrice. And we can go deeper into Beatrice if you guys want in a separate episode. And I have some other people that I want to talk about, historical figures that I want to talk about, figures that perhaps in certain incidents might have gotten lost to the sands times of history, who maybe had unfair trials in their need to retaliate against or protect themselves from certain things that were happening to them. Again, I have to be so careful because of YouTube's terms and services. I wish I could just say the words that are meant to be said, and it does feel like a shame to not to be able to say. It feels almost like a little degrading to these people to not to use the real words. But in saying that, I also want to keep their memory alive. And in doing so, we have to kind of play by the rules in order to keep that memory alive. And everything that unfolded on the internet this past week, it was very strange, almost kind of serendipitous that I was doing these deep dives into Beatrice when all of this happened. Now, the people that are alive today that are speaking out against something that happened to them in regards to a particular man obviously is not at the extremes of what Beatrice went through. I want to make that very, very clear. But I do think that this is a problem with women sometimes. I feel like because we women are we're the more sensitive of the sexes. I think a lot of times our pain gets dismissed by authorities. And I'm going to explain that later on in this video in response to something that another creator called Poe on the Go, who is I believe a retired police officer, if I'm not mistaken, a comment that he made that really, really triggered me. Because I am someone who has survived narcissistic ABUSE, and I'm going to get into that later in this video of my story. And so I think when it comes to women seeking help from authorities in certain situations, historically speaking, it hasn't been that great for us. Now, with that being said, I want to acknowledge that human beings are human beings. And as I've said before, I always back the blue. There are wonderful police officers out there. Every human being is different, and just because there's one bad cop doesn't mean that they're all bad. So I want to be very clear about that. And I know that in a lot of cases where there is ABUSE, there maybe is some nuance, and we'll talk deeper about that later in the video. But let's just start off kind of honoring Beatrice Cenci, or Cenci, depending on who you are, what country you're from, how her last name is pronounced. So she was born an Italian noblewoman. on February 6th of 1577, again in the Papal States of Rome. So a little bit later than our favorite Italian family, the Borgias. Her birthday subsequently is 2 days after mine, obviously hundreds of years before mine, a little over 400 years before mine, since I was born in the 1900s, 1983. She was born in 1577. She was an Aquarian. She was the daughter of a man named Count Francesco Cenci, or Cenci. Again, the name is spelled C-N-C-I. It seems that different accents, different places in the world say that last name differently. American professors say the last name differently than like English professors. So I think either pronunciation is probably correct. Now, the thing about her father, Francesco, will say, the Count, is that, and again, this is the 16th century, so, you know, things are better now for us in the 2000s, but yeah, I mean, rich people often get away with stuff anyway, still to this day. Hopefully that those tides are turning, given the state of what's been happening with Hollywood. But Francesco, even though he was extremely wealthy, we're talking this man owned multiple castles. He even owned a very small village. Like, this dude was freaking wealthy. And he was one of these guys that was so wealthy that even though his personality was abhorrent, he got away with a lot because of his wealth and because of his power within the gentry of Italy. He was known as a sadist. He was very sadistic. He would oftentimes starve his employees. He was known to be violent when he didn't get his way. He got arrested quite a few times for bad behavior, but was immediately released due to his power and his prominence. Beatrice was the youngest daughter. She had an older sister named Lucrezia, and there's multiple brothers involved. But in 1584, when Beatrice herself was 7 years old, her mother passed away. And from what I can tell, there's nothing suspicious about her mother's passing. I mean, back then, sickness was not as easy to deal with as it is now. You know, that's one of the good things about modern medicine. But before her mother passed, there were rumors of her father like beating her mother. And we do know at that point, this is so hard to talk about. Beatrice herself was only 7. She was 7 years old at her mother's passing. While her mother was alive, her father would force her older brothers to repeatedly rape her. But after her mother passed away, there was a little bit of a respite for Beatrice, because her and her older sister Lucrezia ended up being sent for a small time into a nunnery for school until her father remarried for a second time. Now, Beatrice herself had tried to go to the authorities before. We do have records of her literally trying to get help, which is what makes this story even sadder. Beatrice's stepmother also became a victim of her father. Her father ended up having one son with her stepmother. And in 1598, Beatrice and her stepmother and her siblings had had enough. They could not go on anymore. Again, their father was a sadist, and we have accounts that he would even imprison them sometimes, so they literally couldn't escape. And again, for women at this time, it was even harder because it's not like you could just go out on your own. We do have some historical references that perhaps Lucrezia, the oldest sister, had gotten permission from the Pope to marry without her father's consent. But even for that, you guys, that shows just how difficult it was for women. We've spoke about that with the Borgias. You know, I have said many times before, if I had to go back in history and live during this time, I would rather, as a female, I would rather be a peasant than be born into the gentry class or royalty. Because the women born into the gentry class, they are probably some of the most objectified, used and abused women, historically speaking. They had no voice of their own at all. At least in the peasantry class, I feel like women had more, because everybody's just trying to survive, right? Like the peasantry class, you're just trying to get your daily bread and do your thing. So I feel like you had more power as a peasant woman in this time period than these girls like Beatrice, like Lucrezia Borgia a century before. Beatrice, they just had more. The peasantry women had more power. And I do think Beatrice's story is another testament to that. So again, Beatrice, we have records that she had tried to go to the authorities many times. She had tried everything she could do to rectify the situation, to at least be free of the crushing grip of her father. And so in 1598, Beatrice, her stepmother, and her siblings decided that they were going to take matters into their own hands. So they could not do this anymore. It was either them or him. And they got the assistance from two of her father's employees. One of these employees actually was the lover of Beatrice. And one night, the two employees of his drugged him. And then the stepmother and Beatrice and her siblings took a hammer and we'll say deleted him. I'm trying to be very, very careful, you guys, with the words that I choose. Deleted him, you know what I mean, with the hammer. And then threw the body off the balcony in order to make it look like an accident. Well, once this guy, her father, the Count Francesco, wasn't seen around town, obviously a galoot of a man who is so powerful and so sadistic, the town feared him. So if you're the big bully is not around, you're going to notice. And so the police start their inquiry into looking for him. And eventually, this plot to delete him is revealed. Now, what's kind of sweet in this tragedy is that the two employees were brought in for questioning. Now, her lover was basically tortured, and he never gave her up. And he did himself was unalived by the torturing experience, but he never gave up his lover Beatrice, which that's true love, right? With the second employee, before they were able to actually get to him, a family friend who had been aware of the plot had the second employee unalived, so he could not turn on Beatrice, her stepmother, and her siblings. So this is how much, guys, and again, I wish I could just say the words, but I hope you understand like how much the town and the people of all caste, of all classes, hated this man and understood the plight that the stepmother and the children were in. That even a family friend would do everything possible, including the unaliving of an employee, to make sure that Beatrice, her siblings, and her stepmother were never found out. But nonetheless, the plot was revealed. So Beatrice, her siblings, and her stepmother were put on trial for basically homicide. And they were sentenced to deletion themselves, unaliving themselves. Now, after their verdict was read to the people of Rome, many of the people of Rome, including the commoners and the peasants, actually protested the decision. They did not want Beatrice and her stepmother and her brothers to be unalived. They felt like what this family did to the patriarch, to their father, was deserved. in order to save their lives. And they petitioned the Pope, who was Pope Clement VIII at this time, to exonerate these people. And he showed no mercy. And there's a lot of other stories around this when it comes to the aristocracy and unaliving of people by family members. But nonetheless, for the Pope, what was going to happen after these family members were unalived is that he would take ownership of their titles and their land and any money that they have. Now, again, back at this time period, spoken about this in other videos, you know, history is like a foreign country. They do things differently there. That's a quote I love. So when we talk about wealth, a lot of times, especially in this time period, wealth is land. Land is wealth. In the American Constitution, when it talks about liberty, they're actually referring to land ownership. Money, we didn't have the petrodollar back then, right? It was like precious metals, jewels, and land. So a lot of these counts all over Europe, it was land ownership that gave them their power. And so for the Pope to confiscate the titles and the land from the Cenci family was lining the pocket of the Pope because of the land ownership. Again, we saw this again with the Borgias, how Alexander Rodrigo Borgia, the Pope, again, all those videos are here on this channel, how he secured land for his children. Now, again, you guys might think this is crazy because he's a Pope, but again, at this time, many of these popes had children. So a lot of this shady stuff in the judicial system back then that benefited the Pope was shady because the Pope was pulling titles for his own illegitimate children. So there's a lot of just super scandalous stuff within these stories, and that's why I want to look more deeply into these, because the establishment itself, which the church would be part of the establishment, is not the good guy, right? And this is why, and people's lives get messed with. But nonetheless, on the 11th of September, 1599, there was a scaffold that was erected on St. Angelo Bridge, and that is where they were deleted by decapitation. The youngest son, Bernardo, who was the son of the stepmother, he was only 12 at the time. So they did not unalive him, but they did force him to watch as his mother and his siblings were unalived. He was then forced to be a slave basically for the rest of his life. However, a year later, he was released from that because of the backlash that Rome received from what had happened to Beatrice. Now, the painting that you see on the screen, that is a very famous painting of Beatrice. This is actually Beatrice. She is buried at a church in San Pietro in Italy. And they do say that every year on the anniversary of her deletion, that you can see her walking the bridge with her head. So that's the story, a nutshell, of Beatrice Cenci, a very young girl. She was 22 years old when she was done with this life. And we can go deeper into that if you guys want. Again, there's other stories of other aristocratic people that we should not forget their stories. And I plan on doing some deep dives into them as well, because it's sad and we don't need to forget them for what they went through. And so I hope that Beatrice is resting in peace. She's probably already been reincarnated multiple times. Maybe you are Beatrice. I don't know, but God bless her soul. And that leads us into what is going on the internet right now, and why I decided to do a video responding to what's happening with Jenna Miscavige, and especially some remarks that Poemago made. So let's get into it. All right, you guys. So the video that I'm talking about is Jenna Miscavige's. I'm going to pull the screen up here, you guys, so you guys can see it. Please go subscribe to Jenna Miscavige. It's this video right here. He cheated 3 times that I know of. Now she has, let's see, she has 38.3 thousand subscribers. And this video already has 2,223 this early. Sorry, it's early, guys. I'm about to go do my practice. My brain's just waking up right now. Almost 250,000 subscribers this video has. So that's huge for the number of subscribers that she has. And what she's talking about in this video is basically narcissistic abuse. I can't say the A word that many times because of the algorithms. And I watched her video, and she's part of this ex-Scientology community. Now, before we get into it even more, I'm going to back up for the people that might have just clicked on this video because you're following this story. And if you have, welcome to Esoteric Atlanta. I'm so happy you're here. And if you are yourself a victim of a narcissist, please know that you have a safe place here. I myself have been a victim of multiple narcissists, which we're going to get into as we go deeper into this conversation. So please know that you're welcome here. And I don't care, you know, in today's world, we're so divided by so many different things, politics, religion, you know, in the realm of survivors, in the realm of needing support, I don't care about any of that. All I care about is your well-being. So please know that even if you see videos that you disagree with about, you know, deep dives or political stuff, you're welcome here. You know, we're all humans. Opinions are like assholes. We all have one and they all stink, right? So I just want for people who are victims of this type of toxicity to know that they are supported and that they're not crazy and that we believe you. We believe you here. So who is Jenna Miscavige? Well, Jenna Miscavige is, for you guys, in the past, I have done videos with Claire Headley over Scientology, and I've also developed a deep friendship with the late Doug Scott Kramer. I will tag Doug's channel down in the description box as well. He passed away a little over a year ago. So, you know, on this channel, I deep dive weird stuff, right? I deep dive history, conspiracies, urban legends. I like that stuff. I find it fascinating. And on this channel, I often quote Aristotle. It is a sign of an intelligent mind when you can entertain an idea without accepting it. It's kind of hard for people to do that nowadays. So even on my channel, as many of you guys know, I have guests on all the time that I don't necessarily agree with their opinions, but I find their opinions fascinating. And opinions are not who you are as a person. They're just a thought pattern that you're having in the moment. So I try not to. Having an opinion and a moral compass are two totally different things, right? Like as long as your morals are aligned, like as long as you morally are on the same page, it doesn't really matter if your opinions are different. You know, that's kind of my I know that's very nuanced, but that's kind of my perspective. So that's why I bring people on all the time who might have a different opinion from me. I'm not too concerned about people having different opinions over topics because again, it comes down to your moral compass. And you can have totally different opinions over things, but have the same moral compass. And that moral compass, those ethics, are what's important. So within my quirks of loving to study weird stuff, of course, cults fall into that. And so Scientology is super fascinating to me as a cult because of the book Dianetics. Now, many of you guys know from the Law of One, we talk about the Law of One all the time. The darkness cannot create anything. The darkness can only steal from the light and invert from the light, right? So when I look at things like Scientology, which is in my opinion, I'll say, my opinion for educational and entertainment purposes only, my opinion, Scientology is very dangerous. However, if we look back at Dianetics, we can see that L. Ron Hubbard stole all that information from Eastern philosophy. Yoga Chittavritti Nirodha, that your mind is basically what's screwing everything up for you in layman's terms, like kind of a Cliff Notes version. Your mind is the problem. Yeah, and you're not your thoughts, you're not your mind. Whereas in Eastern philosophy, and don't get me wrong, guys, there are yoga cults out there. Absolutely, there are yoga cults out there. But in yoga in its purest form, it's not a cult, right? You're studying this philosophy and then you're integrating it into your life. And the guru or the teacher's there is just there to kind of help guide you, not to control you. I've said that before. When I go to India to study with my teacher in India, who recently just passed away himself, for those who are new here, I've spent a lot of my adult life in India studying Eastern philosophy. That's what I do outside of YouTube, is I teach it. And when I'm in India, when I'm at KPJ, where I'm at the Shala, the school in India, my teacher has no idea where I'm living. He has no idea what I'm doing outside of school. It's not a cult, right? He doesn't get involved. He's just there to teach us in the Shala. Yeah. So that's a huge difference, right? This huge difference between some of these more culty programs versus literal just you're here by your own free will and you can leave anytime you want. There's no, and that's the thing too, like if you leave Ashtanga, if you leave the community, there's no smear campaigns. You're still friends with people. You can still be friends with the teacher. Like it's not there. It's very, very different. And that's a totally different topic. Like we can get into that, the bite model, all that kind of stuff to look at what's more of a controlling organization versus a healthy one. But with all of these cults, they all derive, there's usually information that's seated in truth that they then invert. And that's what happened with Scientology, is Scientology inverted. But this is not something that L. Ron Hubbard channeled or learned just through osmosis from the cosmos. No, he got this stuff from very old philosophy, very, very old, the Vedic text, very old, thousands of years old philosophy from the East. So with that being said, that's why I personally took a huge interest in Scientology, because of what I do for a living and how angry it made me that this man just totally stole old philosophy and then inverted it and tried to control people with it and manipulate it and manipulate people with it. And that's why I got invested in it. And also, and it is, you got the Aftermath, the TV show with Leah Remini. There's all these Going Clear, all these documentaries that are fascinating about how this organization has done its shenanigans all these years. They claim to be a religion. And so they have tax exempt status. There's just a whole thing to it. And if you're not familiar with Scientology, I would suggest definitely looking into it. This isn't a video specifically about Scientology. Scientology just plays into it because of the people involved. So who is Jenna Miscavige, the video I just showed you? Jenna Miscavige is the niece of a man named David Miscavige, and he's like the head dude of Scientology. He's like the Pope of Scientology. So Jenna Miscavige, as far as the little Scientology bubble, from what I understand, because I've never been in Scientology ever, so I'm not a part of this world. She's like the royal family, right? Like that's from how, just by virtue of her last name being Miscavige. So the fact that she left Scientology is, I would assume, is a huge blow to Scientology. She would be one of the most potent whistleblowers, strictly because of her last name. Yeah. And Jenna, from what I understand, she's around my age. I'm 41. She wrote a book when she first got out, and then she kind of went quiet. She has children, and just seeing Jenna on camera, you can definitely tell from her camera that she's a very humble person. She seems to be someone who doesn't really have an ego. Which is wild because growing up with that last name, but in Scientology, no one's treated right. So I actually really I like Jenna from what I see. I mean, I don't know her, I've never met her. But from what I see of her on camera, I like her. I think she would be an awesome friend to have. She reminds me a lot, just the way she looks, her presence on camera. She actually reminds me a lot of like the girls I grew up with. Like, I feel like I could superimpose a picture of Jenna in with all of my little girlfriends from high school, and she'd fit right in. Just everything about her reminds me of my little group of friends that I grew up with. And we are around the same age. Now, obviously, we did not grow up together because she grew up in a cult, and I kind of did too, but very different. Other sides of the country, a different childhood. But there's just something very likable about her, something very approachable about her. She has very kind eyes. The way that she speaks, she seems to be a very kind and compassionate and considerate person. when she speaks, you can, Nora brought this up, which we'll talk about Nora too, because I've got some timestamps I want to show you with Nora's videos. She obviously thinks about her words before she speaks them, which is definitely something I know I should work on, probably a lot of you too. And so I definitely just I really like her. And so when she put herself up on YouTube, I subscribed to her. And of course, I was following Scientology at that point hardcore because I was studying it, but I just enjoyed listening to her talk, not for research purposes, but just because I enjoyed listening to her. You know, again, she's around my age, so it's wild when you see somebody around your age who grew up in a very different life from you, and to kind of compare and contrast when you were hitting milestones in your life around the same ages, but yet she was in a totally different world than like most of us were. So Jenna pops this video up, and I had not, when she popped this video up a few days ago, I had kind of pulled away from the Scientology group. And as many of you guys know, like I said, I know this video might be all over the place because I haven't actually organized it in any way, but a few years ago, I did videos with Claire Headley, awesome videos about Scientology. And then I also did videos, was starting to do a lot of videos with, many of you remember, Doug Scott Kramer, my friend who ended up passing away. And Doug and I really hit it off. Have you ever like met somebody and you feel like a sibling connection to them? I know that might sound wacky and weird, but the moment I met him, he felt like a sibling. Like it was weird. I felt very comfortable with him. I felt very, it just felt very like familial. And the thing about Doug, so Doug, and RIP Doug, I still get very emotional talking about him. And that's part of the reason why I pulled away, but we'll get to that. Doug has been out of Scientology had been for a very long time, long before the internet was a big thing. Doug was also not a Sea Org member, so he didn't work for the church. He was a public person, and he was a celebrity. So Doug was in a lot of movies. You might, if you see his picture, you might recognize him. And so he kind of came into Scientology. His parents were in it when he was a kid, but he kind of went into the celebrity center. Right. And so he never experienced Scientology as a Sea Org member, but just as a public person who was growing. His star was shining brighter in Hollywood. And then when he realized that what he was involved with was not good, he kind of lost literally everything. So not only did he lose his parents, because at that point, and I believe Scientology still does this to this day, I'm not 100%, don't quote me on that, but at this point, they practice disconnection. So because Doug was, I guess, declared a suppressive person by the church, his parents, his sister, his friends cut him off. And because his connections in Hollywood were very much through Scientology, he also lost a lot of work. So Doug literally hit rock bottom. He went from being very successful to rock bottom. And this all happened years ago, before he was ever on the internet. So throughout Doug's healing process, not only, first he was like trying to unscramble his mind from just Scientology, right? Coming out of the fog, go through that healing process of coming out of a cult, losing everything. And then after he went through that healing process, he then started to go further. Kind of that question, okay, why did this happen to me? So then you start to learn about coercive control, different mind control tactics that are out there. And then he started to ask those questions, well, who is L. Ron Hubbard and how did this cult actually get so big? And I have to be careful, obviously, about the words I say here, but that led him down a rabbit hole that took him into the 3-letter agency, Jack Parks, like all these different people that L. Ron Hubbard was around. Drop my pen, during this time. Again, the Jack Parsons, the Black Magic, the Aleister Crowleys, all that kind of stuff, which then, of course, brought him into other big cases, because then he followed like the Process Church that brought him to Son of Sam. So all of my Son of Sam stuff that I do with Rocker Mike now, that is all because of Doug. got him into looking at the Charles Manson and the family, all that Sharon Tate, all those things. I mean, again, I'm going to tag his channel if you guys want to watch it. It's still up. And he has like growing up in a secret society series, all that kind of stuff. I highly suggest going and looking at his work. So Doug had been out for such a long time, just to make a long story short, that he not only was able to kind of unravel what happened to him, but go even further to see like how this all happened anyway, to begin with. Like, how did an organization like Scientology, how was it able to grow so quickly? And why is this founder connected to all these gnarly people that we know are connected to the 3-letter agencies? It led him into Operation Paperclip, which is a legitimate thing. The 3-letter agency has already released all of this. This is legit. They were taking, Operation Paperclip was taking scientists from the Yahtzees, we'll say the Yahtzees, and bringing them to the United States. This is legit. Like, this is called Operation Paperclip. It's already been released to the public. And that's how he started to realize that what was at play with Scientology and so many other organizations is bigger than just Scientology. There is a literal conspiracy here. And that is what, when I first started watching Doug's channel, that is what I was fascinated in. This guy has literally gone above and beyond just recovering from a cult to literally peel back the onion on everything. And so I reached out to him. We started doing videos together. Of course, the videos at first were him telling his Scientology story. Then we started looking at other cults together. The last video we shot together was over the Twin Flame cult. That was literally like the last thing we shot together. But we were going to be doing a series where I was going to have Doug present a lot of his research on my channel too. And I was going to combine some of my research as well, because I had done some research into these conspiracies as well, as you guys know. So we were going to come together with our research and present it together to see if we could even get even more clarity, alleged, again, for entertainment, educational purposes only, alleged clarity on what has been going on, especially after 2020, after the fiasco that's ensued these last 5 years, all that kind of stuff. And as Doug and I filmed more and more and more together, we got closer. As again, it felt very sibling. It felt very familial. Oftentimes when we were done filming, I would put my laptop on the floor so he could hang out with my dog, because he loved dogs. And I'll never forget when the biggest like breakthroughs with Doug is after the first time we filmed together. And I do this with every person I film with. I send them the episode. So after I film with somebody and I process it, I will transfer them the footage as well. My thoughts on this is that if you're a guest on my show, you are the person that's bringing the content. Yeah, I do a lot of solo shows. Most of my channel is solo work where I'm presenting my own content, my own deep dives. But if I bring someone on, not only am I going to advertise that person's channel too, or whatever websites they have, I'm going to advertise it for them, but I'm also going to send them the footage so that they can use it as well. And I remember sending it to Doug, and Doug texted me and he was like, "Oh, cool. Thanks for sending me this. I'll wait a couple of weeks and I'll post it on my channel after it's been up on yours for a couple of weeks." And I texted him back and I said, you can post it whenever you want. If you want to post it now, post it now. You can post it. You can, this isn't my footage. It's our footage. I still firmly believe that. If you're a guest on my show, it's not my footage. It's our footage. I am just so grateful that you gave me the opportunity to present your content on my channel, that I don't care if you want to, you can do whatever you want with that footage. You can cut it up, you can not use it, you can put it up as is, whatever you want. It is your footage too. And I kept saying, he was like, no, I'll wait. Okay, whatever. Well, next video we filmed together, again, I sent him the footage, and we were on a Zoom this time. We were just chit-chatting. We weren't filming, and I was kind of like sending him the footage as we were chit-chatting. And he said, okay, well, I'll wait a couple weeks. And I was like, Doug, you really don't have to do that, buddy. Like, if you want to, I'm not concerned. If you want to put the footage up before me, if you get it loaded before me, I don't care. Like, it's your footage too. It's not going to upset me. It's your footage too. I don't own your story. You own your story. And he kind of looked at me. He goes, "Oh, you're serious?" And I was like, "Yeah." I was like, "Dude, this isn't a pissing match." And he was like, "Well, I feel bad because, I don't want to take views from you." I was like, "Listen, first of all, we have two totally different audiences. And the point of collaborating with people is to help share, cross-pollinate with especially if you believe in that person and you like their message, you want to make sure." I wanted my audience, because my audience, you guys, you're a lot like me. And so I wanted my audience to go over and support Doug, not only to watch Doug's work, but give him the subscription, give him the view, because his work was so important and it was getting so shadow banned. And on top of that, a lot of Doug's audience wasn't my audience. And so if they like Doug's research, they might also like some other stories that I've covered too. And so I was like, dude, we're on the same team. You and I were on the same team. And you and I both understand that there are bigger things at play here in this world. And it's all going to work out in the end. And that really affected him deeper than I even realized, because after he passed away, I was listening to some of his lives that he had done that I didn't catch when they were live. And he actually talked about me in some of them and how cool it was that I didn't care about like the numbers. And I didn't, we do care. We want our work out there, but it's not like, I'm not going to be pissed if someone puts, and he kind of had mentioned to me off camera too, that a lot of the Scientology world, it was very much well, I'll put this up and then you don't put it up until, it's very much that kind of, which I can definitely understand that from a business perspective, but also there are bigger battles at play. And I hope that makes sense. It might be just rattling on right now. So Doug thought that was really cool, that there were people in this world, on the YouTube world, that didn't mind if they weren't going to get mad at him for posting videos before them. And I was introducing him to other people that I film with. And I remember when the last conversations I had with him, he was feeling so good about, and this isn't to boost my own ego, I'm just talking about where Doug's state of mind was when he passed away. That he had found a group of people, myself included, other people I had introduced him to, even though we might not agree on everything, we're all on the same team. And we all support each other, and we're not going to throw hissy fits if someone posts a video first, and we all are not going to judge him. I learned from him that a lot of his ex-Scientology friends had kind of disowned him because he had gone above and beyond Scientology, which again goes back to Aristotle's quote, "It's a sign of an intelligent mind when you can entertain an idea without accepting it." He was very confused by that. He would tell me, like, how can you know that you've come from a cult, but yet you're not willing to entertain an idea that there are other things at play here? You've already accepted that you've been coerced and manipulated in this one area, but yet you're not willing to consider the possibility that you've been coerced and manipulated in other areas too. That was always his kind of question. And he got a lot of backlash from the ex-Scientology community because he was looking into, and like cults, he got kind of pushed to the side because he was looking into the government, because he was looking into the government's position. And that's kind of was his argument, and kind of mine too with Scientology. I don't think Scientology is going to fully come down until the government comes down, because Doug is right. And you guys know this, Doug is right. And maybe for those of us who are not born in Scientology, maybe we can see it clearer. The government is involved in this. Scientology and the government are involved. Same thing with the church. And that's the same thing with me too. All these different deep dives I've done into different organizations like education, medicine, politics, history, all these different deep dives that I've gone into to realize where we've been lied to or where there's been some conspiracies. A lot of people are, yes, gung-ho, but when I talk about the missing books of the Bible or religion, that's when I get the threats. So this isn't just a Scientology or an ex-Scientology problem. This is a human problem where we have different levels of acceptance. So even in the quote-unquote truther world or seeker world, disclosure world, I mean, how is it that politics can be corrupt, education can be corrupt, medicine can be corrupt, but religion isn't? Darling, that's the first thing that got corrupt. So we see this again, like you could talk about every conspiracy when it comes to history or the government. But if you start talking about the Council of Nicaea, or you start talking about the fact that the Freemasons wrote the King James Bible, or you start talking about the fact that Jesus was not his name, it was Yahshua when he was never actually crucified. Ooh, no, the Bible is not corrupted. It's never, there's cognitive dissonance. Yeah, it's cognitive dissonance. And sometimes it has to do with people's sanity. They have to be ready to look at the thing that scares them the most. And for these ex-Scientologists who kind of disowned Doug, I think for them, they had accepted that most of their life, and this is just my perspective, this is not truth, this is just my opinion of the situation, they had accepted that they were lied to through their religion, but it was too scary at this moment, or it is too scary at this moment to accept that the government is actually involved in it too. And I can understand that. It takes baby steps sometimes, because if everything in your world you learn is a lie or corrupt, that's a very scary, vulnerable place to be. Yeah? It's very scary. For me, I get excited about that. I'm like, shit, if it's all a lie, then what's the truth? The truth must be pretty gnarly. It must be pretty great if everything's a lie. So that's my perspective. But I can understand, but I'm an Aquarius, and that's kind of how we are anyway. We disconnect and we're very much free thinkers anyway. So that might just be me being an Aquarian. So I can understand that. But I think it hurt Doug a lot. And I think he finally felt security that he had a group of people he could film with, that he was developing friendships with, that accepted his research. Even if they didn't agree with his research, they still let him present it, and they didn't chastise him or berate him for it. They would just say, agree to disagree. But cool, dude, this is really cool. I like entertaining this. I like seeing it. But even though I might not agree with it, I think it's still cool to entertain. And so I think he was feeling that, and I'm not saying that we're all healthy, but we're definitely a lot healthier minded than some people. And we all have our work to do. But I think for my group of people I film with, that we're healthier minded than a lot. At least we can notice our flaws. But anyway, so when he passed away, he was in a really good spot, because I think he finally felt like he had a community of people. But when he passed away, again, I had heard, he had told me some stuff that was going on behind the scenes with a few of the characters in the ex-Scientology community that really hurt him. One in particular that he didn't want to film with anymore, and he didn't really want a lot to do with. And I listened to him, and I was like, you know what? I'm comfortable just working with you, dude, because I think, you've got great research, and I think that you do hold the keys to the next step in understanding Scientology's place and L. Ron Hubbard's place in the big picture of the world. And then he passed away. Now, when Doug was missing, because he was missing for a while, he had scheduled a live, and he didn't show up for it. And the live started, and people were kind of like, where's Doug? Where's Doug? And it took about a week for him to be found. He left his body. I have to be careful what I say on. I know leaving your body is a Scientology term, but for lack of a better way to say it, because we are on YouTube, he left his body. He left the earth in bed. He was asleep. He passed in his sleep. And it took about like a week for them to find him. He's in California. I'm in Georgia. I'm on the total opposite side of the continent. And but I got a lot of people contacting me that I didn't know from Scientology. I knew who they were, but I didn't know them personally. They were looking for him. And since I was the last person he'd filmed with, and since we were doing a lot of filming together, they were reaching out to me on like Instagram, my email, all that kind of stuff, just desperately trying to figure out if I knew anything, knew where he was, which was a very hopeless feeling. Sorry, guys, my boyfriend came in butt-ass naked from the shower, so I had to pause it for a minute. That might have gotten me more views on this channel, or it could have gotten my channel shut down. So anyway, but where was I? So around Christmas of 2023, when he passed away, I was getting contacted on Instagram, my email, all the different outlets, because a lot of his ex-Scientology people he was in contact with, friends, I was the last person he had filmed with, and subsequently, when they found him, I was actually the last person he'd ever spoken to too, over the phone, which is very haunting to know that I was the last person he spoke to. And in the fury, people were trying to figure out how to find him or to locate him. Of course, that's a very hopeless feeling because I'm on the other side of the country and I don't know, people were sending me his address to go to, and I'm like, I'm like on the other side of the country. To fly from Atlanta to Los Angeles is the same amount of hours as it is to fly from Atlanta to London, England. Like, I don't know what I can do. I just kept trying to reach out to him. I was trying to do everything. I was keeping in contact with some of these I won't say their names, some of these ex-Scientologists. But in the meantime, when he was found, I got wind of some things that particular people were saying about him, even knowing that he was no longer here. And it made me sick to my stomach. It was gross what was being said about him by a particular person. I'm not going to say who. And I just thought, dude, regardless of whether you believed in Doug's research or not, regardless of whether you thought he was a conspiracy theorist or not, he was still a human being. He was still somebody's son. He was somebody's brother. He was somebody's uncle. He was somebody's friend. He's a life. And for you to discard him, even in death, because you didn't agree with his research, to treat him as an object, it was so sickening, the things that I heard that was being said by a particular person, that I was like, I don't want to tango with the ex-Scientology community anymore. That was kind of my reaction to it. And so I was like, you know what, I'm going to I talked to one of his moderators, Doug's moderators, who assured me that they had saved all of Doug's videos, because that was a concern of mine, that all of his great videos were going to be removed. And he has great videos, you guys. Again, it's still up. So please, I'm going to put it's Dazed But Not Confused. I'm going to put his channel down in the subscription box, or down the description box. So go ahead and watch it, because he's got great research, and he knows how to put together he's an actor. He knows how to tell a story, right? And so I'm hearing these horrific things being said about him, even in his passing. And Doug was a kind soul. Just like Jenna Miscavige, he just had kind eyes. He had a kind heart. So regardless of whether you believed in his research or not, you can still admit that he was a good person. And he was doing this to try to help people, not just ex-Scientologists, but all people. And I was disgusted. So I'm hearing these things being said about Doug, like he's just some freaking object. And at the same time, I'm talking to one of Doug's moderators just to make sure that they are downloading and saving all of his videos, just in case, so somebody's got them. And then I am taking as much as I can, because I made a promise to my audience that I was going to continue Doug's research by myself. Now, I'm very suspicious of Doug's passing. That is definitely a topic for another day. For entertainment and educational purposes only, allegedly, I do think there was something very suspicious about his passing. I'm not buying what they're selling with that. Again, that's another story for another day. But nonetheless, I decided, I made a big video and I said, I'm going to continue with this. I'm going to continue with this research, because his research is important. And that's how I got connected to Rocker Mike with the Son of Sam Chronicles. I've just recently done a video with Carl Denaro, who is one of the survivors of Son of Sam, which the whole time I kept thinking, dear God, Doug would have loved to have interviewed Carl Denaro. Dear God. And I just, the whole time interviewing him, I kept like talking to Doug in my head, like, buddy, I hope you're here with me now. In fact, this is kind of a woo-woo story, and if you don't believe in the paranormal, that's fine. I absolutely do believe in the paranormal. That's part of my channel here. But after a year ago, after it kind of settled in my psyche that he was no longer alive, I was sitting in my bed, and I said, like, to Doug, I was like, buddy, if you're here, if you're around me, and you want me to continue showing your work, just give me a sign. Give me a sign. And the next morning I was up cleaning the kitchen, like doing some dishes early in the morning before I started my practice. And I had one of his lives playing. And in that particular live, he actually spoke about me. And it like was jarring to hear that, and what a good friend I was, and how he was so glad that we had connected, that I felt like his sister, which same sentiments. I felt like he was my brother. And that I felt like that was him kind of giving me the wink, the God wink, like, yeah, go ahead. And so I continued. And you guys know I'm even scheduling more videos with Mike as we speak. Mike and I have been texting. So that's all because of Doug. It's all because of Doug. And I carry him with me in that regard. And his life was not lived in vain. His life was he had a purpose in his life. And I do feel like he is watching us from the great beyond. And nonetheless, so because of that experience, I'm digressing, but because of that experience with Doug's passing and what I heard a particular person, or one in particular with a really big channel, was saying about him, I was so fucking disgusted with the ex-Scientology community because of that I was like, absolutely not. I am going to do this by myself. I'm just gonna, they can do their little Scientology stuff. I'm gonna take Doug's research and we're gonna keep going beyond. And I'm done. I'm done with this. This is disgusting. Now, my reaction probably wasn't okay, because it was literally like one person that was saying all these things, and not everybody is responsible for everybody else's thoughts. But in that moment, in my grief, I was like, I'm done. I'm done. So I stayed subscribed to a lot of these channels, but I just kind of stopped watching them because I was just so upset about what had been said about Doug. And then nonetheless, I moved on. We had the Gypsy Rose fiasco, which we're going to get into again, because what the hell? This is so weird. And I actually think there's a lot of correlations between Gypsy Rose's case and David Berkowitz's Son of Sam case. I'm planning on reaching out to like Becca Scoops and some other people and just saying, hey, I have all this information from Doug, but there's some similarities. Even though the crimes were different and for different motives, there are a lot of underbelly similarities between these two cases. If you want to look at Doug's notes, I'll be glad to send them over to you, because this information needs to come out. Nonetheless, I definitely was not focused on the Scientology video. So the fact that Jenna's video popped up on my feed out of nowhere, because you know, with the algorithms, once I stopped watching about Scientology, it kind of stopped popping up. Even though I was still subscribed to these channels, it kind of just stopped popping up in my feed. It was more Gypsy Rose stuff and, you know, some deep dive podcasts I listened to, all that kind of stuff. So the fact that Jenna Miscavige's video popped up in my feed randomly out of nowhere was, I think, serendipitous. I don't believe in coincidences. And again, I'll reshare that one more time for you guys. We're not going to go through her video. But it's this video. He cheated 3 times that I know of. That's the video. So I'm going to put her channel down in the description box. Please make sure that you are following her. And what this opens up to is narcissistic abuse, which, as I said earlier, back a long time ago, I don't think they have the vernacular for this. And there's many forms of narcissistic abuse. Romantic, friendships, there's narcissistic systems. I was raised in a narcissistic system. The private school I went to, Darlington, massively abusive. There's actually tons of lawsuits that they're dealing with. And there is a documentary. I actually got asked to be in a documentary about Darlington and what was going on when I was in school. And I don't know if it's still going on today, but the amount of harm that school has done, there's Reddit chains about it. Any person who is considering paying that much money to send their child to that school, I would beg you to research the school, because you are doing more harm to your child than good. You can get a good education many places. This is a narcissistic system, yeah? Which is what Scientology is. Scientology is a narcissistic system. And so therefore, this type of abuse is rampant. And the problem with this type of abuse is that it's not black and white sometimes. Like, there's obviously physical stuff or intimate stuff, sexual stuff, we'll say, is, because we can't say that full word on YouTube. But a lot of the mental games that are played by narcissists, that's where gaslighting comes from, where they scramble your mind to make you feel like you're the problem, right? And not them. And the interesting thing with narcissists is no matter who they are, they all follow the same playbook. They all follow the same playbook. We see it in politics. We see it everywhere. And once you see narcissistic abuse, you can't unsee it. Now, we're going to get into something too about what Poe and the Ghost said that really upset me. But first, I've got some timestamps here from hold on one second, from What's Up with Nora. I really love her channel, you guys. I actually emailed, if Nora sees this, I sent you an email because I would love to talk to you. I know you're an ex-Scientologist, but I would actually love to get back into it because I applaud you for calling this out. I don't know, again, the person who's being accused of the narcissistic stuff, I'm not really going to get into with him because it's the abuse that's important. And so I'm going to direct you to Nora's and Jenna's channels to watch their channels, but I am going to pull up some timestamps here that I want to talk about from one of Nora's lives. So she always gives the copyright disclaimer. She has it on her screen here under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, education, and research. So this is under fair use. I don't think, because Nora always shares this, I don't think she's going to care that I'm sharing her live. But you guys, she's done some fabulous, 6 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours lives over the situation that just broke. And so I do encourage you to go listen to her channel. She's hysterical too. She's so funny. So let's just listen here.
Let's get real. I know the trolls are out in force. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for being here, trolls. Appreciate. It's like, yeah, let's try not trying to make weird shit happen, Rio. Okay? Because I'm not a violent person. I'm not, but people are trying to run with that narrative now. I'm not a violent person. I say a lot of crass shit. If that's not for you, you can leave. It's all good. This isn't a cult. It's not a cult. You're not stuck here. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, let's skip this. This is the interview I did where I did all my apologizing for Aaron. If I could go back in time, I'd say fuck this interview. Let's finish this, Abraham, and then I'm gonna move your comment down because I'm gonna bring it right back up, and it's already rolled past. Okay.
Line, because it's the only thing he actually cares about. It's also really important to me to feel like I have a place here on YouTube, that my voice is important, and I don't want to feel bullied off of this platform because of him or because I have to see him there every day.
She asked me when she told me in Minnesota that they were having a hard time and they were fighting, etc. And she had described to me the fights. And I said yesterday that I feel a lot of remorse for not having stood up to Aaron in that moment. But she begged me to not say anything about her telling me this because he told her specifically, don't talk to anyone about our relationship. That is narcissism 101. Everything's a secret. Okay. Like, that is beyond controlling. And so her number one fear was like, let's say this relationship rose up and I break up with him. Everybody's going to choose him. And I was like, no, girl, we are choosing you. I said, I promise you we're choosing you. And the evidence is clear. Miss Jenna, look at all the content.
I never.
All right, I'm going to pause it here, and we're going to look at some other timestamps too. You guys, please go and watch Nora's videos because they're so good, and I applaud her. This chick is brave because she is naming names, and she is brave. So the person that's being accused of being a narcissist, Aaron Smith Levin, apparently months ago, I remember her being friends with him and going on his channel. That's how I found her channel, because I thought she was hysterical. My boyfriend and I would giggle at the things that she would say. She's just very, very naturally funny, which people who are naturally funny, Nora, I'm going to let you know this. This isn't love bombing you. This is like statistics. People who are naturally funny are usually highly intelligent, usually have very, very high IQs. All right, now here's the thing with Nora, which I'm sure she doesn't mind me saying this because she says it all the time. Nora is a lesbian. So with Aaron, he was manipulating her in different ways. And Nora, please, I would love to have you on my channel. Correct me if I'm wrong, but because he couldn't romantically manipulate her, which is a very different, when you are intimately involved with somebody, they have a much harder hand and higher control than if you're just their friends. But a lot of the tactics, from what I understand, that he was using with her to try to control her was the same tactics, allegedly for entertainment, educational purposes only, that he was using with these women. And I say women, multiple. I mean, honestly, you guys, I remember the video where he said that he was in an open marriage. And I remember feeling very weird about that. You guys have heard me talk about this before if you've been on my channel for a while, just from the studies of spirituality. Open relationships do not work. They don't work emotionally. They don't work mentally. They certainly don't work spiritually. Any person who is in and that's a good red flag for you guys. If you're doing any type of spiritual work and the teacher is trying to boink a bunch of the students, that is 101 red flag, because anybody who has studied spirituality knows that anytime you are intimate with somebody, two are becoming one. You are sharing karma with that person. And so if you're going around and doing that with a bunch of other people, literally it's a clusterfuck. And so energetically, it's super toxic. So all spiritual people who are for the highest good are not going to be involved in open relationships because they know the potency and the danger of that. Yeah. Even tantric yoga isn't about multiple. I know people try to twist it and make it about multiple partners. It's not. It's one person that you're doing that with, the person that you trust and that you love. Right. And so even if you're aware that your partner's doing that, it's bad. But if you're not aware your partner is going around boinking all these other people, that's even worse, because they're giving you that karma that you didn't know you were receiving. You consented to sharing karma with the person you're with. You didn't consent to sharing karma with all these other people. And that karma can come out in very different ways. It can come out in STDs, but also just energetically, highs and lows. I've said it before, when you come out of a relationship, you need a good cooling off period of celibacy to kind of cleanse before you bring somebody else into that energetic field. But nonetheless, I remember when he made that video about how he was in an open relationship with his wife, and it made me uncomfortable. And I remember my boyfriend and I were talking about it, and it's none of our business. We don't know the guy. It's none of our business, but we talked about it, and he's in his 40s. He's older than me. And this is a lesson that I have to learn. Sometimes I will see traits in people, narcissistic traits that make me uncomfortable, or I have a gut feeling. And I always talk myself out of it. Like, oh, give them the benefit of the doubt. My boyfriend are like, maybe it's because he grew up in a cult. He never had this chance to like sow his wild oats. So when most people are in their 40s, they're kind of over it and they're with their partners. But obviously he's making up for lost time. But my initial reaction was, nah, this is not, I don't think his wife knows. My initial reaction was, does his wife know they're in an open relationship? That was my initial reaction. And then again, I gaslit myself. But it's none of my business because I don't know this person. But with Nora, one thing I wanted to bring out, okay, so during the time that I was not watching these Scientology videos, I guess is when this falling out happened between Nora and Aaron. Because I remember them being really good friends. And then I noticed after Jenna's video, I watched Nora's lives and I was like, oh shit, she's calling him out. He did to Nora what was done to me back in 2022. So YouTube is just a beacon. It's an island of just a bunch of narcissists. And I didn't even say this person's name, but this person did dox me, another content creator. This woman is a raging narcissist, like malignant to the extreme narcissist. And I was filming with her a lot. There were a group of us who were filming. And a few of us realized what was going on because we shared text messages. We looked at each other's text messages. And that I remember sitting on Zoom with a friend of mine that I still film with, that I've been filming with her 5 years now. And we were sharing text messages with each other, private messages between this other person. And you could see the triangulation. And my friend and I, I'm not going to say who, someone I film with weekly, and I were like, holy shit. We're not the problem. She's the problem. It goes deeper than that. But because this other person's mask slipped, because that's what happens with narcissists, their mask slips. That's what happened with Nora and Aaron. Obviously, his mask slipped to her. When you see them for who they are, when you see the ugliness behind the charismatic, charming, soul-sucking monster, when you see the truth behind that, they will do anything to shut you up because they don't want anybody else knowing the truth. So that's when my friend and I got massively hit on YouTube. We started dropping subscribers. I'm still shadow banned. I still struggle with getting my videos over 2,000 views because of this malignant narcissist. She ended up doxing me. I mean, I had money stolen. I had to go to the police and actually the FBI because this person's in another country. It was bad. And so Nora talks about her going through this with him. And so Nora, if you're listening, girl, I went through the same thing. Different people, same playbook. Yeah. And most of the time, one of the side effects of narcissism is sexual deviance. That is a sign of narcissism. And I'm still dealing with this malignant narcissist, just like Nora is. They don't stop, right? Jenna was talking about how she didn't want to be bullied off the internet. That's what they try to do. They try to bully you off the internet. They try to bully you out of business. They want to destroy you. If you dare call them out, if you dare say, hey, I had a bad experience with this person, I think this person is lying, they get what's called their flying monkeys. That's what it's called. People who are under the narcissist spell that the narcissist sends out to do their dirty work, right? So you get hit not just by the narcissist, but by all of their flying monkeys. I had people threatening my nephews and nieces. I had people starting all sorts of smear campaigns, fake smear campaigns on me at the narcissist's bidding. All because my friend and I, who were also friends with this person, shared each other's text messages and realized we were being lied to, that she was manipulating stories. And when we tried to reach out to our mutual friend, a male, to let him know, she had already gotten to him, and so he participated in harming us as well. And listen, you guys, I'm going to say this. The body doesn't lie. I don't watch this guy's show anymore. I stopped watching it back when this happened. I have not seen a video of his since 2021. I don't watch it. But I have seen pictures people have sent me. He looks like shit. And I think it's because he's still doing the tango with this narcissist. This narcissist still has him under her control, so therefore his body is showing it. You can't hide that. When you're unhealthy mentally, and I feel horrible for him, my heart goes out to him, even though I'm really mad at what he did to us. Part of me forgives him because I know he's under mind control. But the body doesn't lie. And it's heartbreaking to see pictures because when I was filming with him and my other friend he was healthy. So I digress, but that just kind of tells you the impact that narcissists have on people. They're like wrecking balls that come into your life. And that's why it's important what Nora is doing, because other people need to be aware of this. Now, I had a habit of dating narcissists in my 20s, and it progressively got worse and worse and worse. Like, I kept dating these men who were just put me through it until I finally dated a particular man, the last narcissist I dated, who I found out he was cheating on me, because that's what narcissists do. They cheat. And I did not know at that time that when you're dealing with a narcissist, the worst thing you can do is actually confront the narcissist because they go scorched earth, which was my mistake also with the YouTuber, but it was just different because I wasn't obviously in a romantic relationship, and I should not have confronted her about the lies because that's what started everything. But with my ex, I found out he was cheating on me, and I presented the evidence to him. And because he couldn't deflect or project or manipulate in that moment, he put his hands here and started to squeeze. I'm trying to be very careful because of YouTube. I was facing away from him. He was behind me squeezing, lifted me up off the ground. I remember looking at a bookcase, and I remember feeling intense pain. And then all of a sudden I got real peaceful. And I remember having this very like, huh, okay, this is how I go. And at that moment when peace started to set in, I was dropped. Now I hit the floor. I was dropped because his dog shat, was so scared, he shat on the floor. And right when I was dropped, I reached for my cell phone to call 911. He then proceeded to run out of the house. So the police did come. I told them what had happened, but because they couldn't find him, they left, and they told me the next morning to go down to the precinct and file a police report. So the next morning, now this was years ago. This was years ago. So things might have changed since then. And we're going to get to them. There's a reason why I'm telling you guys this story, because there's something Poe on the Go said that really upset me. And I hope Poe on the Go sees this and corrects himself. The next morning, my parents came and got me and brought me to the police station. Now, I was banged up. I was bruised. You could tell something had happened to me. I remember walking into the front of the office, and the look on the people's face at the front desk, the look on their face was like they could tell that I had been through something. And so I went back in the office and I sat down with a detective, I think it was a detective, to tell him what had happened, to file a police report. This detective refused to file a police report because he looked at me and said, well, what did you do to cause it? Kid you not. Kid you fucking not. This police officer with me, bruised up, my parents sitting there, there were records that I had called 911, looked at me and said, what did you do to cause it? And I looked at him and said, I confronted him about him cheating on me. Are you going to ask me what I did to cause him to cheat on me too? And the problem is because the apartment we lived in was under my name. All the bills were in my name. For all intents and purposes, this was my apartment. But in order to evict him, I had to go through certain chains of command. But if I had a police report and I could get a restraining order, then I could have gotten him out right now. But because this police officer refused to do that, I was told that I had to not go back to my apartment. I had to continue to pay for my apartment that he was living in while living somewhere else. Me, the person who almost lost her life. It took me years to trust police officers after that. Now, because this police officer was such a dick and should not be a police officer, I wish I still had his badge number, because I would tell you his badge number, because that was so fucked up what he did. He should not be a police officer. Because of that, I had to figure out another way. Because I wasn't going to go move somewhere else and continue to pay for this person's life. So I went to my leasing office with my parents, and I told them what had happened. Bruises on me and everything. And so they decided that what we were going to do is we were going to terminate my lease and then quickly re-sign me to a new lease in another building away from him. So he would have to leave, and because he wouldn't be on the new lease, that would be it. So they were the geniuses who figured out how to work around this issue. Now, it just so happened that there was another police officer who was living in the complex that I didn't know. And so the office called him, and he came in and talked to me. And I don't know if what he did was legal, but he took care of me. He literally looked up my boyfriend's name. Apparently, there were other things from the past I wasn't aware of that were on his record that they wouldn't tell me. But the day that I moved out, they came, this guy and one of his deputies, his coworkers, whatever, came with him to monitor. And then after I moved to the new place, for like 2 months, he would drive by my apartment at night, flash his lights. I would wave out the window to say I was okay, just to make sure I was okay. He did that out of the goodness of his heart when his colleague down at the precinct wouldn't do shit, said it was my fault, right? Even with that being said, even though there was a cop that helped me and saved me, I still had a huge trigger response for a very long time around police officers. Now, I have worked really hard on that, and I have gone on to have great relationships with police officers. And the more recent event of my stalker that I've talked about, where I had to go to the police because I have a literal stalker, happens on YouTube. They were great. Those cops were amazing in Sarasota. They were amazing, right? But I was only able to do that, to actually go to the police for help for my stalker situation, because I had worked on healing the wounds that I'd had years ago with the police. But when I heard Poe on the Go, he's a channel, I believe he's a retired police officer. When I heard him respond, the way he responded to a question of Nora's, I started shaking uncontrollably. My boyfriend had to calm me down. And Poe, you done fucked up. I don't know anything about you, Poe on the Go. I know nothing about you, but I was subscribed to you, not anymore. Do you have a daughter? Do you have a wife? Do you have a mother, a sister? How dare you? You are the reason. It's comments like you made to Nora. You are the reason why people fear the police. You understand. I hope you understand that biologically, I'm a pretty strong woman. I'm a fit woman. I work out a lot. But if a man wants to hurt me, there's nothing I can do. And the fact that vulnerable women who have been massively abused are coming to police officers like you for help. The fact that you responded the way you did to Nora, oh, you should be ashamed of yourself. You are not a good guy. Your mask slipped. Your mask slipped when you responded to Nora's question like that. And you have to understand, you've got women all over the world watching you, wanting to have faith that there are good cops out there. And it turns out, my friend, you aren't a good cop. Because you obviously, you are the type of cop that will protect a man. Now, I know that there are women out there who are also narcissists that abuse men. I know that. But in this situation, we're talking about a man abusing a woman. And your reaction to a simple question that Nora asked shows you the content of your character. Do you even have a soul? Were you a police officer because you wanted to serve the public? Or were you a police officer because you wanted power? Let's check out the clip from Nora. Shoot, hold on 1 second, guys. Let me pull it up.
Is that what you're saying, Fluffer? Aaron took himself off the site? I'm making that. What am I doing? Stop it. All right, there we go. How long has he been off the site? You're saying months?
I might have skipped a little too far ahead, you guys, so just bear with me here. Again, go to
no.
channel.
Yeah, Fluffer, take care of yourself, honey. It's all good. Okay? Go rest your body. Oh, Fluffer took him off. Okay. That's fine, honey. We'll talk later. Okay? Oh. And sent Eric Rader. So Eric Rader is a new attack dog for Aaron?
Flying monkey. A flying monkey.
Where do you stand on this?
How embarrassing. How embarrassing for people
That's
to
not
flying
cool.
You're doing the dirty work.
I don't want to hear from anybody that they didn't watch the fucking Jenna's videos and Lindsay video and then be like, well, we don't know all the sides yet. We haven't heard any of the sides. Go back and watch Aaron lie to your face on all of his videos. Go back and watch Aaron gaslight and lie to your face in his videos about how he has an open marriage, etc. Like, that's bullshit. Okay? It's bullshit. Thank you, Sherry K. I stand with Jenna. Yeah, I mean, guys, I don't understand, in my personal opinion, how this is not an easy decision.
All right, we're almost at where she gets to the
If you need time to
go.
process.
Sorry, guys, I put it a little too far forward.
What woman am I yelling at? What woman am I yelling at, Bo? Who am I yelling at? Be specific. Be specific, Bo. Thank you for the super chat. But be specific. What woman am I yelling at? I'm looking. Eric calls people's name. Okay. Well, that's not cool. What woman am I yelling at, Bo? This is very true. He said this many times. Protests don't do anything and he doesn't support it. That's why when he goes out, he calls it hunting for David Miscavige.
Keep watching, guys. I'm going to leave it up. I just got to step away for a second, but keep watching.
So it's a joke. He's just doing it as a lark. It's a LARP. A lark. Bro, don't just drop a fucking super chat and then bounce. I don't know what you're talking about. Okay, so now we got to talk about Poe. Okay. Okay, so let's talk about Poe. So Poe on the Go, as you guys saw on my channel last night, I'll pull that up right now. He started his video with a bunch of fucking nonsense, and I'm going to pull up his video unless it's privated. Jesus Christ, people privating their videos. Yeah. Oh, Poe's bitching again? Oh, wonderful. Yeah, I had someone call me to tell me how, Poe's so upset with what I did and how I reacted. He's just so upset. The mob cometh. They're coming for my family. No one is coming for your family.
All right, you guys. Basically, I don't know if this is the right place or not. She's got long lives, but basically she was on Poe on the Go's show. She sent him a question basically asking, do you support narcissistic abuse of women? That was the only question she asked him. And he goes, how about shut up to her? That is what triggered me because, Poe, you are a police officer. Your job is to deal with victims who need your help. Do you really think women now who are going through abuse are going to feel comfortable going to the police because of the way you responded to Nora's question? You should be absolutely ashamed of yourself. You are older than me, and you would think that because you were older, you'd be wiser, but that was a dumbass thing to do. And I question you, Poe, now. I used to think you were a good guy. I don't think you're a good guy anymore. I think you are a power-hungry police officer who is not here to serve the public, but to rather reign your power over the public. And it took me a long time again to work through the way I had been treated. And in saying that, I do want to shout out the good cops out there that actually do care and are doing everything they can to try to protect women in these situations. Now let's just watch a little bit further, guys. Again, I'm going to put all of Nora's stuff down in the description box below. Please subscribe to her. Please watch her. Go and give her the views because she's gone through the same smear campaigns that I've gone through from a narcissist. We're simply just calling a narcissist out.
Poe. No one is coming for your family. Who the fuck? Why are you so fucking paranoid? Poe, have you had threats for 18 months against your wife and children like I have?
Yeah.
Via a certain individual named Anthony R. D'Amato Jr.?
The trolls of a narcissist.
No.
Will do that.
Then take a seat.
Give it to me.
What is he saying? Because I can.
All right, you guys, I'm going to, oh, this is great. Let's actually just watch this for a second.
And quite honestly, keep your family comfortable with climatic conditioning, serving the sun.
Let's watch the commercial just to give, I'm not going to skip ad because I'm going to give Nora that extra little pump in her AdSense because bless your heart, Nora, you have been through hell and back. So let's just do this for Nora. Let's sit through this commercial and then we're going to get back to
now, the reason why you may be
back to
overpaying
it.
for car insurance is because a big chunk of your monthly payment
This is for
isn't
Nora.
even for insurance. It's to pay bill collectors.
Because you do get
and
more if someone
administrative
sits through the
people.
commercial.
Crazy,
So
right?
we're going to sit through
But
the
my
commercial
friend showed me this cool little website that changed
and learn about auto insurance.
completely. It gives you the ability to pay for just your policy alone. So this website can find
We're learning something, you guys.
as low as $29 a month.
My car insurance is really low, so I'm good. But
only $38 a month. I put a link to the website down below. So hey, whatever button you see on this video, just go ahead and click that. It's going to take you directly to the website.
that's pretty cheap car insurance. All right, now we'll go on. Okay.
It's like the thing of we had friends that were they got married and they ended up in a bad divorce and things were going crazy.
Okay. So you have friends, bad divorce, crazy.
I got the male part of it who was my friend, and
This is all a bunch of, you guys, I sat through this and I was like, this is some major, like,
he's like, you
this is what I want to get to. I want to get to Aaron's apology video.
And research. Fair use is permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. All rights and credit go directly to at Growing Up in Scientology, Mr. Aaron Smith.
Actually,
11.
I changed my mind. We're not going to go through it all on Nora's channel. Go to Nora's channel and
Copyright
watch it for
infringement
yourself.
intended.
I wanted
This
to
is
go
something
towards
for
the end
the
here.
last
Hold on
couple
1 second.
days.
You
And
guys.
this is a pre-record, not a live.
It's pre-record, guys, not a live, so I can speed it up.
Get to the end here.
I'm going to play it back just a little bit faster.
right. Here's the thing: you don't get to come in with trick questions.
Oh, wait, that was the actual, hold on. Let me back up a little bit, you guys, because that was the actual
No, thank you. Fuck you.
thing he said that was so awful.
Where's the thing? Boop. Downvote. Fuck that shit. That was the literal worst, guys. That was
Yeah, his
the
apology video
literal
made it
worst.
10 times
Okay.
worse.
Let everyone go look at Truth. Please go watch Jenna's 2 videos. Okay? Go watch them. Lindsay apparently is live right now.
Lindsay's another girl that he was hurting at the same time. He smeared her, tried to literally shut her off the internet, take away all.
Live?
You
Yeah,
know.
there it is.
in LA.
I'm
and
looking
since I watched
We are
Laura
all team
yesterday,
Jenna Miscavige.
allegedly.
Boom.
I'm
Boom,
trying to
boom.
find. Okay, where
Okay, I
he's
love
gonna go
that.
back. She's gonna go back to
I
Pill
love
and go
that
here
he is still team
in like
Jenna.
a minute.
And
So
he is, out there fucking fighting.
support
That's
Lindsay
amazing.
too.
But go show, if you want to, go show Lindsay some love. After this, I unsubscribed from her. I'm going to resubscribe. I wasn't subscribed for quite a while, but there you go. I'm going to show my support to her. Fuck this guy. Like literally, talk about Darvo. So then let me just fast forward to here's my comment so we can just see what he said. Okay.
And do an interview with her and talk to her about
Jenna's never coming to talk to you.
her life in Scientology and life after. And I knew that she and Aaron were together and they were a couple at that time. So I went through Aaron and I said, ask Jenna.
So I went through Aaron because they were a couple. So you, of course, have to approach the man to get permission to talk to the woman. Jenna has a fucking email address.
She'd be interested, because it's about respect.
You have to respect Aaron to talk to his not girlfriend because it wasn't public, so it can't be a public breakup.
And again, I don't know anything about their relationship. Okay, there you go. Let's see what's up with Nora. The question is I raised, why does a publicly proven prolific narcissistic abuser?
Hang on, I want to remove the.
This
closed
is
captions
it,
so you
guys. This is
can
the
see
one.
My question.
Turn it up.
Okay?
This is the one. This is the question that triggered me.
Oh, I'm clicking on the wrong thing. Okay, so that's my question.
Women, aka Aaron, given a free pass continually. Question is, do you support narcissistic abusers or not? Period.
Okay. Why
Simple
does
question.
a publicly proven prolific narcissistic abuser of women? No, I need that to stay. Okay. AKA Aaron, given a free pass continually. The question is, do you support narcissistic abusers or not? Period.
How about shut up?
That's his response.
How's that? I don't care what you've got to say. All right.
I don't care what you've got to say.
Right? Here's the thing.
This is literally kind of this almost the same response I got walking into a police station with bruise marks on my neck, wanting to file a police report because I almost lost my life. And this is exactly how I was treated. Not those same words, but what did you do? What did you do to cause this? Poe, you owe women across the world a massive heartfelt apology. It's men like you that make good men look bad. That was a blanketed statement about just abuse in general. And the way you responded shows that in a situation where a woman is about to lose her life, you will support the man. You son of a bitch. You son of a bitch.
You don't get to come in with trick questions.
It's not a trick
It's
question.
not a trick question.
It's a yes or no question. It's
Do
not
you
a trick
support
question.
narcissistic abusers of women or not? It's not a trick question. That was a general question about narcissistic abusers.
You don't get to come in here
How was that a
with,
trick question?
oh, this is it, and you're going to answer me.
He's-
No, you don't.
He's manipulating it. She asked a simple question, and so Poe is doing what narcissists do. So Poe himself might be a narcissist. I don't know him. But what he's doing is he's twisting that question and manipulating. It's a simple yes and no question. And people who are manipulators, instead of just answering the question, will twist it. And that's what he's doing. Be wise, my friends. Be wise when you see this shit, when it's a simple question and someone's trying to twist it to make you the bad guy for asking it. That is abuse. That's abuse.
You don't get to come in here and tell me that I have to make a decision one way or another.
I can't
I
imagine
didn't.
how he treats his wife.
I asked, why does Aaron get a free pass? That's one question. It was a two-parter. Second question, do you support narcissistic abusers of women or not?
I'm just going to go to the end here, guys.
She was more important and higher than
I
her.
sent a
So
super chat,
women
so.
tend to lose the ability to be seen as women a lot. Yeah. Esoteric Atlanta, thank you for speaking the truth. As a survivor of narcissistic abuse, this is so important. I hope any person who has gone through this knows they are not alone. We got you. Yes. Yes. Thank you for that
Thank you,
super
Nora.
chat. And absolutely. Mommers is
And thank you, Nora. Nora, again, I sent you an email. I know you've been crazy busy, but I did send you an email, Nora. So if you get it, I would love to bring you on my channel. I would love for you to, my audience, to get to know you and to tell your story and just to talk about whatever you want to talk about, because Nora, you are so brave. Even my boyfriend said that, like, you, hell hath no fury, like a woman who knows what narcissistic abuse looks like. And I thank you, Nora, for standing up for all of the women out there. And I stand with Jenna. Jenna Miscavige, we got you, girl. You deserve. In one of the videos Nora did, if you guys watch it, she shows a video between Jenna and her ex-husband and how her body language is very different with her ex-husband. She's very comfortable with her ex-husband. And Jenna, one thing in closing I want to say to you, girl, listen, and to anybody who's ever been abused by a narcissist, you, in your first video, Jenna, you kept repeating that you felt stupid. Look at me. Darling, you are not stupid. You kept saying it was only the second relationship you had been with and you felt naive or whatever. I'm kind of paraphrasing what you said. Darling, I know we're around the same age. You would be horrified if you saw the list of men I've been with. So the fact that you've only been with 2 men, fantastic. But even though I've been with a ton of men, I still got duped. Let me explain to you something my therapist explained to me. You are a healthy-minded person. You are an empathetic person. You would never do to someone what was done to you. So you never thought in a million years that he was lying to you or manipulating you because you wouldn't do it to him. So this just goes to show you what an amazing human being you actually are. I pray for your healing. There are wonderful men out there that will never do this to you. You are not the problem. And to Lindsay, I've only seen a few of your stuff. I know there's more women out there too. We got you, girls. We know you got pinned against each other. It was called triangulation. And thank you for being brave enough to speak out. And Jenna, you are definitely, because of your last name, girl, he ain't got nothing on you. He can't manipulate that. You are ready. As Nora said in one of her videos, you were born a public person. He became one. That gives you a certain amount of power. And we got you, girl. So anyway, all right, you guys, please go support these lovely ladies' channels. I'm sorry if this video was a little bit discombobulated. Again, I wasn't planning on filming. But anyway, hope you guys are having a wonderful start to your 2025. Tomorrow, I've got my video on the skinwalkers dropping. And Nora, if you're watching this, love to bring you on my show, girl. All right, bye, everybody.